Welcome to the Dairyland Patriot podcast. Today we have the No Kings protest debrief. What now? Building power. I'd like to welcome Kelly Fenton and Emily Tseffos. So first of all, they warned about hate. As far as Texas, Governor Abbott actually talking about bringing out the National Guard to Austin for the protest. So they warned about hate and we showed them peace. Kelly, why don't you kick us off? I saw you down there.
Yeah, that's kind of what they do is they want to paint us as being violent and hating America. And by the time it was over, I know a lot of people on Fox News were making fun of the rally because there were too many old white people and it was a bunch of nerds. And look at these silly people in these frog costumes. And so again, they wanted it both ways. They wanted to pretend that the turnout wasn't what the turnout was. And I think it shows that we got their attention.
I think it's also interesting like that. I mean, if we were able to rebrand ourselves on the left that quickly, holy cow, could you imagine what we could do? You know, like, wow.
Yeah. I thought there was like 7 million people nationwide. And like, I didn't hear anything about arrests or anything bad. No looting, no destruction of property. I saw a lot of pictures of like after things were over, it was clean, it was back to normal. So, I mean, I think it really kudos to the organizers at the federal level who kind of got it going. And then again, it's distributed leadership, as you well know, Emily, because you helped organize in Appleton here, that even at the local level, it takes a lot to pull something like this off. So thank you very much for your role.
We were happy.
Can you tell us a little bit about everything that went into getting this together, your concerns going in, because I know there was some apprehension, and how you feel the whole thing came off.
Yeah, it was a lot of work and a lot of prep to make sure that we were able to offer that space to our community in a way that was safe for everybody involved. So we started chatting about it, like a bunch of different organizations from the area, more than 6 weeks ahead of time, like as soon as that national call was made, because like you mentioned, Travis, it's a distributed model. And so while they have those national calls to action, it's up to local people that are volunteers to take that on. And so we were really kind of concerned going into it because of the rhetoric from a lot of the leadership on the right about how violent this was going to be, anti-American, pro-terror, like whatever they were saying. And there was a lot of mud that they were slinging. And what we know is that like we are at just the temperature has been raised continually. And we don't want to put our community in a situation where because that temperature has been raised, someone's coming and they're feeling like they need to take action of some sort. So we really tried to plan with our marshaling, with our security, with the way that we were posturing ourselves and messaging to alleviate like what they could twist and turn into something that wasn't what this was meant to be. And really like the vibe on Saturday was like there was a lot of righteous anger and there was a lot of fear and sadness, but it was like a party. Like with a bunch of people, it was so loud and so great. And there were all, people from all different walks of life. We saw veterans there. We saw members of the LGBTQ community. We saw kids. Like it was really, really cool. And the vibe was like great. It was great. And it was joyous and jubilant. And it was great. So I think that like on the outset, we were really proud of the community for showing up in that way. And all of those kind of, again, with the pretext that they were trying to offer as far as this being a violent thing, that is not what happened in Appleton or across this country. And it was really cool to see 7 million Americans showing up.
And right in the heart of the protest in Appleton was a small group of Trumpers who parked their van right in the heart of it. And they were all standing around with their own signs and their own agenda. And for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, because they were there early, there was absolutely zero problem.
Yeah. I mean, they were definitely exchanging ideas, which is all of our First Amendment rights, with people that wanted to engage with them. But our people, like, for the most part, left everybody alone. There were a couple of them that were like trying to debate. Our marshaling team was really on top of it as well to just make sure that those conversations stayed civil. And everybody did. Like, people were just, behaving themselves. I think in those situations, especially, no one was going to change anyone's mind. So it was kind of more entertainment than anything else. But
Yeah.
I mean, that, which goes to show, right? Like, you were outnumbered thousands to 3, and you were able to be there for 3 hours without incident. You are welcome. You know what I'm saying? We're not the violent left that we're made to be.
Yeah.
Do you think? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as a marshal, I really appreciate the training that we got in de-escalation, what to watch out for, what things people might do. We talked about things like, if people want to take the streets, it's not what we're there for. We're not there to like cause a scene. We're not there to do things that may be required at some point in time in terms of legitimate protest, if you're willing to go to jail or get the ticket or whatever it is. But we did not want that. And there was one person that tried to instigate that, and we stopped it. And there was just general safety things too, with thousands of people there. People are crossing the streets and gawking at everything around them and like almost getting run over. So there's a need for people to show up and just be crossing guards. I mean, they're not kids, but there's a lot of distractions, and it's hard for cars to see around corners. We're not asking the police to take care of this. So it really, as a marshal, it was a lot of fun to participate in the event, in part because we were well trained.
And thank you for doing that.
Yeah. It'd be nice to think that 7 million people went out on Saturday and there were no violent incidents. I think there were some counter-protesters that were arrested. I don't think they were for violent acts necessarily, but I certainly hope that I don't know that it will, because I don't know how much good faith there is on the other side, but it should certainly tell the American people, if they're aware, that the Democrats don't hate America and they're not out for violence. And I hope that message got through across the country.
I think it has to the Republicans as well, that we're trying to spin that. Like, we took that away from them. They know that is not a line that's going to get them any traction. I've seen a lot more usages of terms like Marxism and socialism and communism, and people throwing around words they probably can't even define and trying to trigger negative emotions in other people without being able to define. And like, what do you mean when you say that word? No, that doesn't really apply here. And that's not the point at all. You're distracting from the fact that you won't negotiate to reopen the government. You're distracting from the fact that you tore down a third of the White House and you're spending a bunch of money on all these frivolous things while people aren't going to be getting their food benefits.
Yeah, I think too, Kelly, to your point, that I think that the overall message, right, because the arrests that did occur, my understanding is that they were mostly people on the right that were there to provoke conflict. But I think it's really important, and that's something that like we certainly wanted to focus on, was like, this is what it, like, loving our country is this. It was what we did on Saturday. Like, that is patriotic. That is demonstrating and living out the love for the country and what she is supposed to be and what foundations she was founded upon. Like, that is what I want people to take away from it, because they've co-opted patriotism, the flag, all that stuff that we know. But I think that what we need to be is like completely unapologetically saying, we love this country. Here's why what's happening is wrong. And we're going to keep calling it out, because love of country doesn't mean blind faith or allegiance to her. It means that you work to make sure she is operating on the ideals which she was founded upon. So I think we got to keep going with that.
So, Emily, I got an email from you in our work together with the Outagamie Democrats. Sure. Remind them that No King's Day was never just a protest. It was a promise that we'll keep organizing, caring for our neighbors, and standing up for our democracy together. So basically, the takeaway is that No Kings was never meant to be just a protest, right? This is a movement, and this is something that we are supposed to take with us and carry with us day after day after day, month after month, and year after year with this administration. And so this is not meant to be a one-off event where you get to go home and pack your sign away and say, I put my stuff up on social media. Like, no, it requires a dedication that you probably never imagined yourself having.
when it comes to safeguarding our democracy. And it requires more courage than you thought you'd ever probably need living in this country. But if you were there on Saturday, what we are asking and begging of you is to remember that this was not just a protest. This is the beginning of something that can be very beautiful and very powerful in this country. And we want people to keep going with it.
And when we talk about why did we do it, why it matters, I think that gets into the concept that this was a gateway for further action, right? It's like when you get people to donate to a political campaign, oftentimes they ask for just $1 because, oh, I can donate $1 and that's fine. But then psychologically you come back and you ask for a little more and you're like, well, I already gave him $1. Now I can give $5. So it's similar. It's like the protest that's giving $1. You gave $1 to the cause. There were groups there like the League of Women Voters. There were groups there like Hate Free Outagamie, like the Outagamie Democrats. And they had people distributing postcards and information. They had people gathering potential volunteer information. I know we got a volunteer for our neighborhood action team in the heart of the Valley. But in terms of that being a promise, it's kind of a down payment to try to get other people involved. And you get them to show up for a protest, and these groups can show up and they can help you get hooked into what the next step is.
Yeah. I think that's it's such a real and important part of it is that once you get in there and you dip your toes in the waters of activism or democracy or whatever, the water's not that bad. And so you're like, I have power here. I can do something. And certainly we all need more people. So it's really incredible to see like those community connections where you're like able to take that energy and be like, let's harness it. Let's make sure it goes somewhere. Let's make sure it wasn't a one-off thing. So very cool.
I wanted to just mention a couple of people that I talked to there and why they were there. And some of these stories were, there was a lot of the same theme going through it, but then there were some that stood out.
All right. What's your name?
My name is Tony.
So what's the primary reason you're out here today?
My father went and served the U.S. Army in the Battle of the Bulge to protect our democracy, our rights, our freedoms, and fascism is just the antithesis of that. We can't have that in our country. We all need to stick together. There's more of us than there are of the rich billionaires. Don't let them get you down.
What do you, Tony, what do you hope to take away from today, personally?
Community connections.
Yeah.
And a feeling of encouragement for all of us to not become depressed and give up because we have this.
And what do you hope to derive from this personally, and what have past protests done for you?
It's a feeling of solidarity with others who feel like I do. I don't sleep very well at night. My dad was a bomber pilot in World War II. He served 26 months in a POW camp in Germany and Poland.
Yeah.
He fought the Nazis. I shouldn't have to be out here fighting them again.
Yeah.
And I truly believe this regime is Nazi.
Yeah.
So you could feel how personal this was to people and how much they were doing it for their families and for their children and their grandchildren. And there was a real pureness about that, I thought.
Yeah, I think those personal connections are incredibly important. And I think it really highlights the different communities and different, because there's big things, right? Like the fighting fascism and American ideals and things like that. But we also saw people there that were like, that are dependent on Medicaid, right? And so they're there saying that I need it to survive. And so you have like, there's just so many different issues that are being like dismantled via what they're doing with departments and institutions and programs and things like that. And it is a visceral, like real, kind of reaction that they're having. And I'm just so glad that they took time to be out there to gather together and be like, all of this matters, like all of it. And we're connected because the struggle exists within all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We sit at home all the time and looking at any shred of news is doom scrolling these days. There's just headline after headline of people being killed in Colombian waters that are just regular fishermen. And they're like, hey, stop murdering our people. And they're not stopping it. There's the White House getting torn down. There's just a never ending stream of bad news, and to be surrounded by people that you agree with. And you're like, hey, yeah, like this is not good. And to know you got allies, really, it lifts your spirits. You don't feel so alone, because most of the time when you're consuming that bad news, you're alone.
I think that's like a big takeaway. Like that's, I think the most common thing that you hear afterward is like, I'm not alone. And I'm like, no, none of us are. Like half this country or more at this point is very, incredulous about what's happening. So you're not alone. Yeah. Going up.
No, and you hear from Trump supporters, oh, we voted for him. Like the majority of Americans. It's like, no, it's not the majority of Americans. It's not even the majority of people who voted. He didn't even get 50% of the vote.
Yeah.
No. So it's just
I think it was it really was cathartic for people. You could tell. And by 10:30, I mean a half hour before the thing started, people were lined up all the way down to Morrison. I mean, it was 3 and 4 people deep on the intersections there. Houdini was filling up. People were ready. They were eager. And at one point, I think about 12:15, probably at the height of the whole thing, I just took my voice recorder out on my phone. And for a minute straight, I held it up over college. And it was, I actually linked it to the story. It was 1 minute and 9 seconds of car honking and people releasing, everything they were feeling. It was really pretty powerful to hear it. And it was nonstop car honking. And I know, Travis, you said next time earplugs for you.
Yeah. the horns for 2 hours, like standing out there in the street, that gets to be a lot.
I needed a quiet space afterwards, but it was very cool. It was very loud. And like joyous noise. So,
yep. So that, I mean, some of this, when we talk about the camaraderie and finding other people that believe the same as you, it's like good for you to be there, but it's good for people to even see it. Steven Pinker is a psychologist. He has this new book out about common knowledge. And this is what his take on what common knowledge is and why it's important. So this is like the emperor's new clothes, right? Everyone knows the emperor is naked. Everybody knows Trump is an autocrat. He's a tyrant. Nobody wants to say it because they don't want to be the first one to stand up. But as soon as one person says it, it becomes common knowledge. It's public knowledge. Now it's much more safe. You go to the next step is everyone knows that everyone else knows it. And then everyone knows that everyone else knows that everyone else knows it, and so on and so on. And the more and more people that say it, and the more common knowledge it is, the easier it is for people that are kind of on the sidelines, that are kind of afraid to say something or don't know if what they're feeling or seeing in their interpretation of it is right. The more people they see being bold and just telling the truth, the easier it is for other people to stand up and tell the truth.
I love that.
There's strength in numbers.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, and I think we've all been waiting for the dam to burst in that regard, where, and I know you're talking about maybe more people that are kind of on the sidelines, but in terms of people that are in the Trump camp, for those people to start acknowledging, as you say, what we know, they know we know, that could, burst the whole dam. But as of now, it's holding. And that's what is so distressing. It
was designed to hold, right? He picked people that would back him 100%, not people that were loyal to the shared concept of what the United States was, but people that were loyal to a plan to push as hard as they could and see if they could tip us over into an autocratic oligarchy, like full-blown oligarchy with a king in 4 years.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking more in terms of Congress people, Republicans that are sitting on the sidelines.
I still I don't know about you guys, but especially after days like Saturday, I don't have much faith in our elected leaders that are, if you have, I mean, good for you, Marjorie Taylor Greene, because she's going full on, I'm done with this stuff, which is cool. But like, it gave me more faith, not in our elected leaders to do the right thing, but in the people. Like, that's what I keep coming back to. Like, it's wild kind of at this point, how along for the ride we are in this country right now because of the loyalists and the way that they've set this whole thing up. But like, the people that are waking up to this and then are being given permission via seeing other people getting active and waking up to it, that's where I'm like, okay, like, that's what's going to keep me going as we wait for our elected officials to like have spines and do the right thing.
Well, and there's also this, oh, go ahead.
So many of them are in these gerrymandered districts. They don't really have to care about their district because they know it's solidly Republican. The only thing they have to fear is Elon Musk primarying them with someone that is more loyal to Trump and that whole plan. And that's part of the reason why, I don't really have a lot of faith that our elected leaders can do a ton in Congress about this right now. It really does come to what you're saying, the local people. And I think it's like, maybe there's Project 2029 out there, but first we got to do Operation 2026, like on the local and state level, protect elections, win elections, and protect the mechanics of the elections themselves, and don't let them be federalized and taken over or adjusted by the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Well, along the lines of what Emily said, though, Unite and Rise, the League of Women Voters project, which I think they announced maybe about 5 months ago, the point of getting 3.5% of the voting age people out to protest, that amounts to 8.5 million people. Now, we came close on our first try here. We got 7 million out. That's the threshold, according to studies, at which actual change can start to happen. If you can get 3.5% of voting age citizens out to protest. And we came close. So in terms of it being a people campaign to try to turn this thing around, you got to take a lot of hope out of those numbers.
I do.
Yeah. I think some of that comes back to the organizing that takes place here too. It's like, those are the numbers we need, but we also need those numbers doing more than showing up like every 3 or 4 months for a protest. That's going to help pull people out of the woodwork, but to really put pressure on, there's going to have to be more coordinated things like Operation Blackout or Project Blackout. I forget what it's called. Action outside of the protests, whether it's big things like that, like coordinated economic activities, strikes, things, even like the mutual aid type of stuff that we do, right? There's going to be 700,000 people in Wisconsin that are going to lose their food benefits at the beginning of November. And we did a donation at the protest in Appleton, and a ton of people have brought non-perishable food goods. You want to be involved in helping things change for the better. We also need to take care of the people that are directly being hurt and saying, okay, November, the government is still down. There's all these neighbors of ours in Wisconsin. What can we do for our local food banks? Can we donate to Feeding America? So there's the direct like pressure type of activities, and there's that mutual aid towards impacted communities that we need to be doing.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so much the walking and chewing gum at the same time kind of thing, where you feel that urgent need but you also work toward the policy and electoral change and systemic change, frankly, in a lot of spaces, so that you don't end up in this position again. But we have to do like both right now. And again, it requires more commitment than I think any of us imagined having to have. But it's worth it. So do it.
Yeah. And it's, you think about local, like in cities and states, it's a lot easier to have a bigger impact than it is at the national level. And it's not just, hey, protecting the machinery of elections. Some of what's going on in Chicago is they're saying, hey, your troops can't eat here. The ICE can't eat here. Like doing things at the local levels to protect marginalized communities or to slow down what's going on. There's a lot that can be done, and it's a lot easier to get involved and have more impact too. So it's very rewarding.
Chicago stuff is just like my heart. That community is showing up in ways that are creative and effective, and it's incredible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mad props to Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I think to that point, it's a lot, like when we're talking about, stuff is going to start hitting the fan, I shouldn't use that word because of the AI video where he was dumping stuff on American citizens. But it's going to start hitting the fan. And I think like what we do then is the meeting those immediate needs, but being as loud as we possibly can about the fact that that problem was caused by that man or that administration or that legislation, and like connecting the dots, because they're dependent on people working too hard and, grabbing onto the fear and the anger that they're manufacturing, and then being like, you won't question anything else because we already got you hooked on that big emotion and it doesn't even matter. Or we've wrapped ourselves so tightly in this flag and this cross that nothing else matters, and I think that the only, one of the ways to get through it right now is to say, the fact that you're in line at a food bank and that food bank doesn't have full shelves, those were policy choices. And you just have to hit them while they're hurting, be like, that was a policy decision. They screwed you. I'm sorry about that. Let's do better by electing the other people. And it's long and arduous and awfully, it's a lot of work, but I think that I don't know how else you do it, especially at kind of grassroots level, right? Like we are not strategists and political, super PACs in Washington. We are people in Northeastern Wisconsin. So what do we do?
Well, and I think those people are so emotionally connected to what they believe. And I'm sure their egos are tied into it.
Yeah.
That we have to approach it in a not I told you so way, but, I feel your pain. I recognize what's going on. And
naming the villain and being like, you were lied to. He told you this was going to happen and he screwed you. And that's just the long and the short of it. And that's not fair to you.
Yeah. I saw there's like this political Aikido that you do. I saw an article on Ground News the other day, and it was talking about how some FEMA reports from like people going out in the field after disasters were noting like which houses had political signs. And in some cases, they were staying away from houses that had Second Amendment signs or Trump signs, and they reported this in their FEMA reports. And now the DOJ is doing an investigation on this, and I'm like, good. If that was going on, good. That should be something that we go after these people and find out where the orders came from. And then in 2026, when we have the House, we can do investigations. In 2028, we can do investigations about all of this stuff that Trump and his administration are doing, and attorney generals can go to jail, and all kinds of people can go to jail for doing very bad things. And I think that's another thing to have hope to fight for, is like, justice may not come in the next year, but there is still a possibility for justice, even in the 2020 case. That wasn't like completely closed. They put it on hold because Trump was president, right?
Yeah. I hope that we're not too far dismantled that, that's where I'm at personally, where I'm like, God, I hope the systems hold, at least the structures, so that we can hold people accountable on, with all of this stuff. So I'm hopeful that you're hopeful, and I'll hang on to that, Travis. I'll hang on to that.
Yeah. And speaking, I saw Trump is withholding FEMA money from Maryland for the floods they had, and there's no question he's doing it simply because it's a blue state. And it's hard to believe that we're living in a time where that is a factor in a president's decision. And I think that's what makes it so hard to maintain any sort of, keep your spirits up. And maybe that's why what happened Saturday is a salve for that.
Yeah. I think that that's an important point to remember. Like, there's a lot, it is pretty abysmal out there right now, but I think that community and local work is like where I'm finding that to be the like the antidote to my despair at this moment, is gathering with like-minded people and dedicating myself to doing what I can in this teeny tiny part of the world to know that like we're back is back. Because I mean, like I tell people all the time, like that's what history books are made up of in moments like this. It is these seemingly like sort of solitary little movements or projects or campaigns that these people are doing. I'm like, but that is like all a part of a resistance that when the tides turn helped to get us there, And so people just need to remember that like the unsung heroes are exactly what we need right now.
Yeah. So and some of them end up sung. Think about Harriet Tubman, right? She wasn't a politician. She wasn't a general. She wasn't anybody fancy or famous, but she saved a lot of lives. She helped put a lot of good together, and she is in the history books, at least until Trump can rewrite them all.
Yeah. I mean, like the same thing in like 1930, like in the resistance in Nazi Germany, right? Like there's all these people that like did these little things that are a part of it too. So even if we're not, Harriet Tubman, who was incredible, it's still worth the while.
Yep. Mm-hmm. True that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing this, Emily.
Cool. Thank you, Kelly.
Hey, thank you.
Good stuff. And that's all for this episode of the Dairyland Patriot. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with us today. Your listenership truly means the world. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider showing your support. The best way to do that is to like, subscribe, and even leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps us reach more folks across Wisconsin and beyond. For more in-depth articles, analysis, and all of our latest updates, make sure to visit our site, dairylandpatriot.com. And of course, join in the conversation. You can find us active on all major social media platforms. We love hearing your thoughts and engaging with our community. Until next time, this has been the Dairyland Patriot, signing off. Stay informed, stay engaged, and stick together.